Hey everyone, it's Jeff. As we continue along on our podcast, Lora and I would love to touch on some topics that are near and dear to your hearts. So if you have anything that you want to hear us talk about, if you want to get Laura's unique perspective on some of the things that you might be dealing with or some things that your loved ones might be dealing with, we would love to hear about those things. Please send us an email. mail.sowhatwhocares@gmail.com is the best way to do that. Or you can send us something on social media through our DMs or a comment or something like that. But we'd love to hear from you. It's important to us to make sure that we are touching on the things that are important to you. Please, again, reach out to us. And while you're there, subscribe, like, and comment. Okay, enjoy the episode. He feels the pull of the horizon, the quiet promise of a destination he can't quite see. Each breath is a small movement, a rise and fall, like the gentle sway of the boat beneath him. The water hums a low song, a pulse of possibility and uncertainty. He catches himself already planning. What will I do when I reach the next shore? Who will I meet? Who will I be? All the questions gather in his chest like restless birds. He almost can taste the answers, but they dissolve before he can swallow. He closes his eyes and listens instead to the wind rushing through the frayed edges of the captain's hat atop his head. He flexes his toes inside of his boots and thinks back to the island of echoes, the place where he last set foot on solid ground. And he remembered how it felt to press his toes into the sand, how it felt to have the earth meet him with quiet certainty. He opened his eyes. He looked down at the worn wood of the boat, the salt-streaked oar in his hand. This is the only place that matters right now. This breath, this moment, not the island behind him, not the horizon ahead, right here. In this small boat, in the middle of the sea, he finds a strange kind of peace. The rhythm of breath becomes an anchor, an answer that doesn't need words. The boat rocks, the world turns, and he lets the next breath come. This is So What Who Cares with Lora McCarville and me, Jeff Kolaski. Join us as we explore practical insights for an impractical mind. I'm struggling to know how to ask people to rate and review without sounding like, hey, rate and review and smash that like button. like I don't want it to sound like a douchey YouTuber, you know?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're new to the channel, make sure you smash that like button. I don't want that. But honestly,
it does make a difference when you rate and subscribe and share what we're doing.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So
Laura.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone who does already do that.
Yeah. I loved hearing from people and seeing what's happening out there with what we're making.
Yeah. It helps keep it going and want to keep going. And I mean, it's important regardless if people do that, but it is nice to get some feedback sometimes. So
for sure.
Yeah. Just like in anything we do. You want to be told good job from time to time. So today, this episode, we are getting into the wide, wild world of mindfulness.
Oh, so much stuff.
the buzzword that we all know and love, but do we really know what it is? You do. You teach it in your sleep, right?
Yeah, I have been for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
And practice it. Right. And forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So when you and I, the first time we met, we did a different podcast, and we talked about mindfulness. And I'm going to start this one sort of the same way. It's a word that we all have heard, but can you tell us what it really is, what it really means? What even is mindfulness?
Well, if we could just like bare bones simplify it, it would be this practice of present moment awareness with a kind attention,
Mm-hmm.
a compassionate lens.
Yep.
So, meeting the present moment with kind awareness.
Right. And that last piece, the compassionate lens, the kind awareness, that's the most important part from what I take from our
I think it's the
conversations.
part that has been left out
Right.
in teaching. I think that there's a lot of push to being present, be present, be present. But we can be present and really still be assholes
Mm-hmm.
to ourselves and to others,
Right.
and not really engage in the full scope of mindfulness.
Mm.
The word can also be really weaponized. I've heard it really used against people,
Mm.
and like and used in ways of like, well, if it's just being more mindful, right? So
Oh, yeah.
I think like you know,
Do you think that there's I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, go.
Do you think that there's a way that people are getting the terminology just wrong? Like, is it maybe, it's one of those words for the current culture, it's similar to like gaslighting, where
Mm.
everyone loves to throw it around, but do they really know what it means, and are they using it appropriately? And if I'm saying that my best friend's gaslighting me, are they really doing that? And that sort of thing. So not talking about
Yeah.
gaslighting. Is mindfulness, is it possible that that's just something that people don't truly understand? And where do you think
What do
that
they
they're
call
going with?
that? Like, not a buzzword, but they call it something. I'm gonna get it wrong, but
Hmm.
I'm really gonna get it wrong with what I'm about to say, but I
Okay.
think they call it like, oh man, I wanna say like a beaver word, but it's not beaver. It's like
The beaver word.
it's not that, but there is a word, and
Yeah.
what we're really speaking to is it's just been used. So can I say that it's a loss of definition, or no, it's not
Mm,
defined? I think it's such a broad. It's people's whole life. Like it's a whole practice for your whole.
right.
Like it's not. Yeah, so I would really say I don't know if we can say it's just lost its meaning as much
Right.
as it's just holds so much
Yeah, it's a
meaning.
it's a small word that holds, it's a big bucket. It holds a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
stuff. Mindfulness is not the same thing as meditation.
Okay.
Where do those things intersect, and where do they?
Okay, so this is through my teachers and the lens I look
Mhm.
through. We're going to say mindfulness is this practice of present moment meets kind attention or compassion. There are informal practices and formal practices.
Okay.
So, an informal practice is like maybe when someone says the phone rings and you pause before answering it.
Hmm.
That would be a mindful moment. And
Because
you are in the present moment.
mhm.
You maybe they would say, I'd say wiggle your toes. Some people might say take a breath before you answer the phone. Be in the present. So you call yourself to the present.
Okay.
Okay, that's an informal
Right.
practice. A formal practice would be mindful meditation.
Okay.
So in mindful meditation, it's more like sitting with um, open arms,
Mm.
not actual, but like a metaphorical, like
Right.
everything is here. And you learn to sit in the seat of awareness as all things are coming and going.
Hmm.
So that could be emotions, feelings, sensations, thoughts, all these
Right.
things that we've been talking about
Mhm.
that have led us to this, where we go, oh, so in that way of mindful meditation, and you might use breath, you might
Mhm.
use an object, you might use a mantra. Those are more one pointed focus meditations.
Mhm.
So often meditation is described as like a one pointed focus:
Mhm.
breath, object, mantra, saying something over and over.
Meditating on something
One
or
thing.
concept or something, right?
And we might start with some of that with mindful meditation. And then we move towards more of a open awareness to all these things that are
Mhm.
coming and going, and a training to sitting in the seat of awareness. So as states come and go, you have a kind attention towards it.
Right. Are there little everyday moments that can kind of count? Like if I'm brushing my teeth or doing something quietly, can that be a mindfulness practice? Like in
It
all of those things?
it could be. It
Okay.
could be a mindfulness practice if you're present
hmm
and
I'm never present when I'm brushing my teeth, by the way.
yeah, you're like thinking of other things and
Everywhere
you're over
else.
there
Yeah.
and maybe you're doing other things
Right.
while you're brushing your
Yep.
teeth.
Yeah.
Maybe you're doing brushing your teeth with your left hand to work with your brain. Like you're doing all
I've
sorts of
never done that either. That's
see
crazy. That's
just
craziness.
uh, I like that kind of stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm
Challenging.
totally into like
Oh,
keep that
wow.
brain pumping,
No,
working,
that's
right side, left side.
man, I should try that. I might I feel like I would like hurt myself.
Well, go slow.
Okay, fair enough.
But maybe, yeah, so it can be mindfulness. It
Yeah.
can be if you're practicing being in the present moment.
hmm
While you're brushing your teeth, you're brushing your teeth. And other thoughts will come and you go, okay, I'm brushing my teeth right now. Oh, and then I got to go do the, oh, just be here brushing your teeth.
Right.
Nothing more for you to do.
Right.
That would be a mindful moment or a mindful practice then.
Right. So is mindfulness sort of a thing that we're hoping to achieve all the time? Is it something that we want in certain times? Or are there times where it just isn't as helpful? Like if I'm feeling fairly mindful right now. We're in this conversation. I'm trying to stay present and compassionate in this moment, right? To the conversations we're having, to what's going on around me.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I'm feeling burned out or overwhelmed? Is that a good time to practice mindfulness?
I mean,
Or
it's a
worse, if things are chaotic, I'm late, I'm stressed out, I'm whatever it may be.
well, in when we enter into those states, most of the time it's because um something's going on and the reality is in that moment there's nothing more we can do
hmm
than so it would be like can I stay mindful with the state that's here.
hmm
Okay, so I have a story that just happened this week.
Yes.
So, 2 days ago, I was washing my car, got out, was cleaning. A friend called. I put my phone on my car, put my AirPods in. Great conversation. Get in my car. Decide to take my AirPods out, drive off up the interstate to go into the office. Going up the interstate, I see something fly kind of off to my right, and then the call drops, and I realize that was my phone.
Mm.
And I pull over, search, can't find it, loop back home, jump on my iPad to tell my client I'm not going to make it, get back on the interstate,
Mm.
right? So I was able, now there were times in my life that would have really, I would have jumped way ahead,
Mm.
right? And there were certainly thoughts of, I didn't look at my calendar. I actually don't know who I see after my 10:45, who's
Mhm.
at, so there were a couple moments, but I wasn't panicked.
Mm.
I wasn't freaking out.
So you were freaking out mindfully.
I wouldn't even say I was freaking out.
Okay.
I was more like, can you believe this
Yeah, this is
happened?
wild. Yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, I was more concerned about my safety getting back on the interstate and
Sure.
walking the ditches on the interstate. So I did pull back up, search and search, couldn't find it, but I knew it wasn't lost that I couldn't
Mhm.
find it. Got in my car, put in my AirPods, immediately they connected.
Oh, so it's around here somewhere.
So I
Wow.
pull up like 5 feet, search in front, and I'm like doing this like Siri, I don't even know if that works,
I think you
with the
just activated
AirPods
your
in.
phone.
Oh, that's funny. With my AirPods in, I don't even know. But then I walked back right behind my car where I had parked, like 5 feet behind.
Mm.
When I pulled over on the interstate, I had parked over the top of my phone.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's why my AirPods connected
Yeah.
immediately straight away. Isn't that
Holy cow.
wild?
It's very wild.
So
Yeah.
there were a
You're lucky
couple.
that thing wasn't destroyed,
I
by the
could have
way.
ran it over as
Yeah.
I pulled over to look for it.
Right.
Screen fine, everything fine with it.
Wow.
Okay, so my concern was what am I going to do with my clients,
Mhm.
right? But because I have spent years of practicing mindfulness and I knew what's the worst case?
Right.
I go to my office and whoever shows up
Right.
until people stop showing up and then I go home and try and figure
You
out what
gotta
an
go.
iCloud is. But also,
And then I got to spend the next 3 hours at Verizon trying to figure
now
all
I
that out.
knew we would find it. I knew it could be found. It's not like it's lost somewhere else,
Mhm.
somewhere between the on ramp to the interstate and when I pulled off.
It's
It
not
was
really where someone's
there.
walking and they're going to steal it. They're not,
No, but you know what was happening today? The big tractor mower was out. Had
Oh,
that been,
yeah.
chances might have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
But still, a practice of mindfulness, both informal and formal, led me more. I was more in a state of, can you believe this happened?
Right.
Than what the panic and the worry and the fear. And I did call my partner, and I was like, or didn't call. I texted him from my or whatever
iPad. Yeah.
iPad,
Mhm.
and he messaged back, some very loving, supportive things like take
Mhm.
a deep breath, you'll find it, no worries. And I was and I was like, yeah, I know, like I felt
Good.
supported,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like I didn't need him. I just felt
Sure.
more like supported,
Yeah.
but not in a state where I was flipping my lid.
Yeah. He's not
Not
talking you off the ledge.
No, he's
He's
just doing the
yeah.
right, loving, kind
Right.
thing to do. So,
What a great guy.
he is.
He's the best.
I think so too. So it was nice. It was
Yeah.
nice. There's no panic on either of our ends. And I'm not saying there in the past there wouldn't have been
Sure.
on,
And
but
not every situation's that situation, and we
right.
all have our stuff. So
But mindfulness has helped me develop the ability to stay present
Mhm.
with what's happening. Worst case scenario, I would end up at Verizon having to buy a new phone.
Right. Which isn't really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of all the things.
Everybody lives.
Right.
And
It's
so,
annoying. But if
but
that's
okay.
all it is,
Right.
then maybe we're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the vast, you know, that's a time in which I was able to practice and really more, not even, I wasn't even practicing mindfulness as much. I was
Being mindful.
soaking in like what practicing can give you.
you were you were in a time when it clicked where this
Yeah.
work, the things that we've practiced, the things that we've done, the things that I'm teaching,
Mm-hmm.
this is a moment where it's helpful, it's beneficial, where
Yeah.
it could have been, you know. So I think about, when you were on the phone with your partner, I don't know if you wanted his name said, so
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't.
Nathan. Sure.
Nathan.
Yeah.
When you were when you were talking to Nathan, do you feel like, so just to sort of segue into, how does mindfulness change how you show up in relationships? And,
Mm.
in that situation, you were in a good spot. You were being mindful of what was happening. Yeah, it wasn't an ideal situation because it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's a little bit unsafe because you're walking across the side of the
Yeah. And I
interstate.
expressed that like,
Hmm.
ugh.
Yeah, sure. Not that you didn't feel any of that. You're like,
Mhm.
I'm blissfully walking
Yeah,
across.
I
Yeah,
was right.
yeah.
Right.
But so anyway, to go back to
Yeah.
that relationships, whether it's intimate relationships like our spouses or our partners, or friendship
Mm-hmm.
relationships, um, how can that change how you show up to those things? You want to
It's
speak to
so
that a little bit?
yeah, what mindfulness can do in that way is it gives us be, because what happens is states start to mirror state. And so someone comes into a situation or relationship with their state, and then your state starts to mirror it, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're running into like this thing where everyone's escalating,
Mm-hmm.
or we're all shutting down, right? Like we start to mirror states. In a mindfulness practice, it gives you more of that ability to be present, um, and offer compassion or connection and stay connected,
Mm-hmm.
without joining in with the state.
Right.
Do you know what I
I do.
mean? So
Yeah.
the practice helps us to be in relationship, a mindfulness practice. It also helps in the way of like awareness of, oh, what am I dragging in my history into this moment?
Mm-hmm.
What's actually happening here?
Yeah.
How can I revisit if I do, leave the present moment? We can't be present all the time.
Sure.
That's it's not even a good idea.
No, not only is it unrealistic, it's also probably not smart, not right, not.
Not if you're going to be a householder and not live in a
No.
cave,
Right.
right? Like if you're going to function, we're going to think about the future and we're going to think about the
Yeah,
past.
you should.
Right.
Right.
What we're learning in mindfulness is how to work with the heart mind, how to work with coming into like the place of the heart, and so that the nervous system or the brain or those future passings aren't hijacking us.
Yeah, and you're accessing those things at the appropriate time and place, and
Right.
when it's beneficial to you and those around you, those who care about you and you care about. Um, I feel like there are times where, just to piggyback on that a little bit, are there times where mindfulness can also help you to understand or understand when is the right time to match somebody's, like,
Yeah, that's really important because we associate being mindful with being calm.
right.
And that's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
Like a mindfulness practice if you have a strong sense of a mindfulness practice, it means that you can also take right action.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might mean like standing up for something, that might
Right.
be using your voice, that could be even advocating or raising your voice doesn't
Yeah.
mean like you're dysregulated
Yeah.
and not being mindful. Like
Right.
there are times.
I think about things like, let's say that my friend or my spouse gets upset with something at work or something, and instead of me going, well, are you, like, that's not the right time for it, I'm still being mindful and saying, I'm going to kind of match that, because it's also validating. It's also, showing someone that they're not crazy for feeling the way that they're feeling,
Mm.
and things like that. Not obviously, we got to be careful with,
Yeah,
how,
sometimes mindfulness gets confused with being passive
I think you're
and a
right.
non-participant
Right.
in connection. Because then what happens if you're like doing the whole air quote mindfulness, which is / passive,
Right.
and someone's having an experience and you're like, well,
Yeah.
what you're speaking to is the other thing that the person feels is not being seen or heard. Like,
Right.
where
Or
are
truly
you?
understood. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other person's taking kind of a hierarchical state of like better than.
Yeah. Looking down their nose is what it's going
Right.
to come
And that
across as.
that's the shadow. There are shadow sides of all things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is one of the shadowy parts of mindfulness becoming so mainstream is that thing of being weaponized.
Yes.
And then also it being used as like a way to get out of um or take a stance of hierarchy behavior or
Yeah.
that yeah,
Yeah. It's
ick.
gross.
It can do some ick things
It
for
really can.
sure.
There's nothing more validating than when somebody at the right, not to, I'm not going to, I don't want someone to take me to the extreme, but match me for a little while. We're gonna be mad about this, or we're gonna be sad about this, together for a bit, and then we're gonna move on.
Hmm.
I think that's huge, and that's a
Yeah,
part of
more
being
than
there.
matching, I'm going to poke a bit, but more
Please.
than matching is like connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're speaking more to is this word of attuning.
Yeah.
Then like I don't have to be mad about it just because you're mad about it, but I can be attuned to your experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's what I think I mean here.
Yeah, that is,
Yeah.
I think, what you mean too.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to be like
Yeah.
mansplaining you right now.
Yeah.
Actually, which is
Actually,
such,
what you're talking about is,
which
yeah.
is so annoying. But I do
You're
think
fine.
that that's what you're
It is.
really
No,
speaking to is not like I
and I
need
would
to be
like to,
mad too, but like
yeah.
an attunement, which again, a practice of mindfulness
That
can
is
take us
mindfulness.
to
Yeah.
attunement.
Absolutely. I believe from all the things that you're saying, that is being mindful, because it is a compassion. I might not be sad about the person that passed away in your life because I didn't know them. It doesn't really hit me that way, but I can be attuned with what you're feeling. I can empathize with that, and I can be there with you for
Present.
that,
Yeah.
present, and be able to be what you need at that point. That doesn't, that could mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, right.
I think
But
we're hitting the same nail on the head.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay. So is there such a thing as too much mindfulness where it can actually backfire, or was that kind of what we were just talking about?
I mean, I don't even know if that's too much mindfulness, but can we do people in extreme cases, do we find that people I always use the language of they haven't come off the mountain, meaning some people will go into meditation or mindful meditation or mindfulness in the way of like to attain a state.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to being with people or coming I was coming off the mountain, like
Mhm.
come back down, like then they're not able to like be with people.
Mhm.
Um,
They're still high
yeah,
on whatever they were
or
doing up there?
right,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, maybe high,
I don't
maybe,
mean like actually,
but
maybe.
a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
you can probably. So
yeah,
in that way, is that too much? Well, that can be a path, and
right.
I'm not. It's not my path, but
Mhm.
people do practice that path, and we do find there are some things that come out of being that extreme
Right.
that have consequences.
And yeah, and I think there's probably a space there that would be sort of treacherous because if you get to that place or whatever you want to on the to the mountain,
Hmm.
you have to be mindful or of not displaying that in a way that's what you had kind of said, for lack of better terms, like holier than thou, or like I've got this figured out, and you need, because that's not truly being.
Well, and again, it's like there's lots of paths. So if that person's going to take that path, that's fine.
Yeah,
If it's not leaking into
it's not
my
fine.
it
I
well,
don't
as
like
long
it.
as I mean, I may not have a preference for it
Yeah,
either, but it's okay if it's not leaking into
sure,
my freedom of my path,
right,
right? So
true. If you're gonna go
if you're
stay on that mountain, then
and
do
if you're
you.
imposing your
Hmm.
beliefs, that those
Sure,
extreme things that
yeah.
happen, so not often but can, yeah, sure. And again, I don't even say that's probably too much mindfulness, because they that extreme case we're using are people who've probably dropped out of the practice as a
Mm,
whole, have come out of teacher, have come out of not having a teacher, moved into a different state.
right. Is mindfulness something that's being taught in schools and at like companies and things now?
Oh yeah, yeah, and has been for a while.
Because I
So
don't remember that ever being a part of my curriculum in
no.
school, and it's very, I've been in a couple companies, both nonprofits and some more corporate things, and mindfulness maybe just recently for me is something that has come up in a corporate structure, which is amazing.
Hmm.
Um, do you think it's a good thing? Is it being watered down? Is it too like what's
Yeah,
the
but watered down is still okay.
yeah?
I think it's a good thing, and there's a shadow side if it's
Mhm.
being used to. And I teach in a couple. I've taught in corporate settings and in schools
Yeah.
for years. So 15, 16 years. So,
Mhm.
but
So
it's
yes, it's being
evolved.
taught in
Yeah.
schools by
So
you.
but it has done a funny
Yeah.
thing where, like, I'll do the hand model of the brain, and a little kid will be like, "That's the amygdala," and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, they're
Like
really teaching you
okay.
details of,"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or the opposite, where a family hired me to come in and do some yoga, and both kids were like, we do yoga all the time," and it's left like a sour taste
Yeah.
because it's like a video the teachers put on,
Mhm.
right? And it's called like mindful movement, and all the kids get up and move, and they're
Yoga
so
for kids.
yeah, and it becomes like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
again, it's not like the neurobiology informed practices that
Sure.
I teach. So not saying like I'm the only one who can come in at all.
You're
They're
the only one we care
amazing.
about right now, so it's okay.
There are amazing yoga teachers for
Yeah.
kids and mindfulness for
Sure.
kids. So yes, and if it's being taught to control a population,
That's what I was gonna ask next.
that's the
Please keep
shadow.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are some things that have come out in the way of like outing companies
Mhm.
and corporations for using mindfulness to get away with bullshit. Right.
Yeah.
And so kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
numbing down a group of people in order so that there's not like when things are going on, they're like, people are being mindful. They're not being
Mhm.
mindful. That's not mindfulness.
That's
Um,
manipulation. Yeah.
Manipulation. And
Yeah.
that's so different. Now, if it's
Absolutely.
being taught, like, here's some tools when things are getting difficult
Right.
so that you can access, hey, we're actually going to allow mindful breaks. So if you want to go for a walk, and we
Mhm.
won't punish you for that.
Right.
I was brought in to teach mindfulness with some residents, and that's one of those moments I had where I was like, oh, this is a conflict of interest.
Mhm.
You're wanting me to teach mindfulness in an institution that doesn't uphold mindful philosophy and doesn't incorporate it. Just the nature of being a resident isn't a practice
Mm.
of mindfulness. And yet you want me to teach them how to take a couple deep breaths and go for a walk when they've been up for 3 days because of the
Because of what
institution.
you're doing with them, yeah, or having them
Yeah,
do, right? Yeah.
yeah.
There's
So
some
let's go to you. You said that your company is offering mindfulness now, or there's some
um
things happening in corporate?
yeah, so they have brought in someone who I've started gaining a lot of respect for just from the work that she does, and very in tune with mindfulness practices, and more on a corporate organizational under that umbrella with the hopes to build a leadership team or a company as a whole into looking at things more present moment, and
Mm.
also informed about what else is going on in that room. We're treating
Mhm.
each other as people, and we always check in with how we're doing professionally and personally and those sort of things, and understanding that there's a level where we're not gonna, if there's a scale of what I'm comfortable sharing, where 10 is what I would share with my wife, 6, 7, 8 would be maybe what I'm sharing with you. It's going to be more like 3 to 4 what I'm sharing with, but it's not zero. And
Mhm.
we have a little bit more, uh, like you would say, present moment awareness. What's happening? What are people dealing with? What's, going on in this
Do you like
structure?
in
I
or
love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. Um, I think it's very helpful but just like anything else, you can give all the tools you want, but if people have walls, and which there are people that do,
Mhm.
it's gonna you can't force people
No, and we
to
don't wanna
see the value
engage in
there.
that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm teaching right now at a call center, and it's so awesome because I'm reminded of just like why we're doing this podcast, because
Mm-hmm.
so many people don't have access or
Yeah.
to this information, or haven't heard it delivered in ways that are easy to consume. So
Right.
it's been really fun to hear how it lands
Mm-hmm.
in a corporate
Yeah.
environment. Yeah.
And with that being said, there are a lot of people that don't have access to things. So if you're listening, don't keep this to yourself. Don't, don't just say, "Hey, this is a neat thing." We are already in the community where you understand mindfulness, and we have a lot of our listeners and whatnot are very much in that
Mhm.
community. Don't hold on
Yeah.
to that so tight that share that,
Yeah.
and whatever that means to you. Not
Yeah.
necessarily this, just
Also,
this.
yeah, thank you, because I received that too.
What?
I'm hearing you say that, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's so true." I forget because so many people in my circle are students and friends, and people are
Right.
practicing, but it's true. There are people who also
Right.
I know that I can share it with them
Yeah.
too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Two more things I want to ask,
Okay,
if that's all right.
please.
If you had to build, this is how I wrote this question. So, if you had
Okay.
to build a mindfulness starter pack,
Oh.
like what do people actually need to begin this practice? What does that look like for you?
Mm. Oh man. Informal.
Hmm.
I'm going to start with that.
Yes.
Informal.
I would say that anyone listening to our podcast is in an informal setting at the moment, because they're not probably
Meditate.
playing this to a room full of people on mats meditating.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
I would say just start with informal
Yeah.
practices, a pause, and ground, meaning wiggle your toes.
Mm. When that pause happens, what do you suggest people are doing? Nothing?
I mean, before you answer the phone,
Mm-hmm.
before you walk into the door in your house, pause, wiggle your toes, like drop in.
Mm.
Now I'm going to add on. So it could be in the beginning, just finding a pause.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe you add pause, feel your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you might add pause,
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
please,
You bring up feel your feet, wiggle your toes quite a bit.
all the time.
It must be important to you. What's special about that? We may have talked about it a little
We
bit in one
have
episode, but
we have talked about it, and I bring it up, and I just used it today working with a kiddo who's dysregulated, and um, it just works so much better than breath.
mm,
I mean, it just brings you right down, because what happens with dysregulated states, or where we go,
mm-hmm,
right? So even if we're not in the present moment, we have this sense of like up. It's like
mm-hmm,
you're out, right? And so when we pause and wiggle our toes, we're drawn back down to the present moment, back down to our body, back, like it brings us down, get low. In general, when even our breath will get up here, right? Those places happen up here. So wiggling our toes.
Come back to the ground. Yeah.
Come get low. Come down.
Because I know we have some listeners who are very disabled, at least one or two. Some that may not even be able to actually feel their feet. Is there anything that we should add to this?
Can we keep that question in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's so valid. Because that's true. So even if you can't wiggle your toes, bring your awareness down. I have a friend, Dan Nevins, who's double
amputee.
Double amputee. Thank you. And he has a great story about when he took off his prosthetics and did his first asana with his prosthetics off, and how he felt his knees ground like electric bolts into the ground. And he was working with so much PTSD and so much frustration with his yoga teacher, so much and then he said, fuck it, I'm taking these off. And he went into Warrior 2 and he felt that right into the ground in a way he hadn't felt that down connected energy. Wow. So even if you're in a wheelchair, if you don't have access to feeling your legs, my dad's missing a finger. Yeah. So if I say wiggle your pinky finger and he doesn't have a pinky finger, there's also our imagination. There's also the imagination of sensing. There's also looking like we want to bring it down. So it's a really valid question.
Because the goal here is not necessarily, we're talking about circulation or anything. You're talking about the brain connection, the nervous system connection, and then the mind and just kind of grounding.
The mind and body wherever you're accessing body.
So there's your mindfulness starter pack.
That is, I'm going to add.
Please.
Can I add?
Oh, yeah.
So
it's your show.
Our show. So if it's a mindfulness starter pack, that is the first thing I would do. Then I would start to carve out a little more time. Maybe a couple.
The pause gets longer.
Where you learn to just be a little bit more, a little bit longer, maybe 3 minutes. Maybe it goes to 5 minutes, where you just learn to be the seat of the observer of like, whoa, I'm just going to be here with all this stuff happening and keep my attention and awareness to the present moment. And the mind's going to go like, and you're going to come back. Things are going to come. And what I would say is just start with a couple minutes. Learning to be still for just a couple minutes.
So the last thing that I wanted to ask, and maybe it's just a repeat of that, what can our people take away? What can our listeners do right now? Same thing?
Yeah, I would say if there's something to take away, given that you've been listening along the path, right? You may find that accessing the present moment, now that you have awareness, we've been really teaching to awareness of states and self, that maybe you can access some of these mindfulness practices a bit easier. So you're not going to get anything perfect. There's no such thing as no thought.
Right.
There's no such thing as you're bad at meditating. None of that's a real thing. Everyone experiences. It just is when we move into these practices of mindfulness and mindful meditation. There just is being with the present moment.
The traveler grips the oar, feeling the burn in his arms and his chest as he pulls the boat forward through the water. The rhythm of his breath is a pulse in his chest. Ready and sure. He's not lost in the future, not drifting back into memory. Each stroke of the oar reminds him he's right here, right now, alive and moving, and that is enough.